What is really frustrating about the way that establishment Democrats have been operating, I've realized they're just extremely online. Like they are running the most extremely online campaign possible. And the expectation usually from these guys, the way that they've presented themselves for many, many years, we'll start off with the Haley Stevens closing message. One of the things that I have noticed and find very interesting is the fact that the establishment wing of the Democratic Party used to present themselves as like the reasonable people that understood the working class. People that didn't spend a good deal of time on the internet, people that were, doing the work, a workhorse, if you will, right? For Michigan. What's been really interesting about this process is that it turns out when left to their own devices, when they actually have a real left flank insurgency that is taking out seats piece by piece, the only tools that they have in their tool belt is the old school, shallow identity politics, false smears of claiming that your opponent is like anti-black or anti-woman, and claiming electability to an increasingly smaller group of people at the heart of the party. And last but not least, unbelievable levels of enmity towards people that they feel have wronged them online. And it is a remarkably online candidacy for Haley Stevens. You wouldn't expect it because she's like goofy. She's got the Youper accent. She's like really building this up. She's hyping herself up as a I'm a roll my sleeves kind of gal to do Michigan stuff. She's LARPing. When the only thing she has done, and especially with her closing argument, is utterly devoid of policy. And dare I say, trying to foment racial animus and, of course, cynical deployment of anti-Semitism smears against Abdul El-Sayed. So we start here.
When
Abdul El-Sayed did this interview with Amani, Muslim girl. This is one of the choice quotes from the interview. Abdul El-Sayed says, AIPAC, come after me.
When AIPAC watches this, come for me. See what happens. Come for me. Like, I know you keep coming, but like, you picked literally the least capable candidate in America, right? And then Chuck Schumer doubles down, and then AIPAC doubles down. And part of me is like, okay, look, if you think you can beat money out of politics, money in your pocket, Medicare for all, come. But I'll tell you what people don't want. They don't want money in a foreign government. They want money here.
So it's pretty clear he's targeting AIPAC, which has spent upwards of $34 million on this race so far, almost $40 million on this race alone, in the primaries alone. That's a pretty significant number. And it's perfectly understandable that he's even sidestepping Haley Stevens to a certain degree and just talking about AIPAC and saying that AIPAC fucked up by choosing the wrong person. Now, this was very frustrating for Haley Stevens, who is slated to lose this primary, inshallah, right? And she delivered this closing message. Abdul, we were both on the ballot in 2018, which, for those of you who don't know, 2018 was basically 40 years ago. 2018, I was 3 years old back then. Get it out of your system. For all the chatters in here, we're going to be like, 2018, that was 45 years ago. Abdul, we were both on the ballot in 2018. I was capable of winning my competitive primary and general election. You lost. You lost by over 20 points to Gretchen Whitmer, and you will lose to Mike Rogers by talking like this. Everyone in America understands you want to blame all your problems on Jewish Americans. What the fuck? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Jewish Americans? Let me tell you something. The notion that AIPAC is representative of Jewish Americans is perhaps one of the most anti-Semitic things you can say. Now, and I'm not even talking about it as like from the anti-Zionist perspective, right? I'm not even saying that as like the woke guy who's always fucking talking about how Israel is fomenting anti-Semitism. I'm just straight up looking at the objective numbers of what American Jews despise. AIPAC is up there, okay? At this point, there are few things less popular than AIPAC for American Jews. You can make an argument, a separate argument about Zionism, what it means to American Jews, or Israel and what it means to American Jews to varying degrees. Some people defend it, some people don't, whatever. But AIPAC is seen as this far-right, MAGA billionaire-backed institution, this organization that is unbelievably undemocratic and unbelievably unpopular. So for her to just say AIPAC is actually a substitute here for all American Jews is more anti-Semitic than anything that they have claimed Abdul El-Sayed has ever said. Not anything he's actually said, because he's not anti-Semitic at all, but even their claims do not come near the level of anti-Semitism demonstrated in this talking point, okay? But of course, we expect that from the stick it to 'em, it's the Michigan way candidate. But buddy, let me be very clear. I will lower the cost of groceries, ban stock trading for elected officials, stop Trump's abuses of power, and protect Michigan manufacturing. And you'll just be a celebrity whining and writing books to get even richer. You're part of the complainer class, looking for their next book or podcast deal. Bruh. She said, bro, I just want to work for Michigan. What gives? Obviously, this is her closeout. This is her final message. Her final message is like, you're complaining too much. Which, by the way, given that Abdul is, running for office in a primary, she's not just saying that about Abdul, she's saying that about all voters. Voters who want to vote for Abdul, voters who, might share the same frustrations that Abdul is channeling and communicating solutions to. So she's basically just saying, shut the fuck up, not just to Abdul, but to anyone that is complaining. Anyone that is complaining about, Donald Trump, prices, the level of influence that Israel has on American democracy, our endless warmongering overseas. Haley Stevens saying that is so unbelievably out of touch, but it doesn't matter, right? The media still plays the same silly song and dance. Although, if you look at this, most American Jews oppose AIPAC spending in Democratic primaries, survey finds. Most have not heard much about the role pro-Israel groups have played in this year's primaries, another survey found. I found this to be waving the white flag, but in some respects, she was waving the white flag after dumping $60 million. Okay, dumping $60 million into this race. Is Haley Jewish? No. Contrary to what some people in the commentary sphere have claimed, and contrary to how Haley Stevens presents herself, Haley Stevens is not Jewish. She's not. She's Christian. But it doesn't end there. Here's the other parting message. And this is the part where we get really online. Are you ready for this? Haley Stevens says, they might not like how I sound, but I will make sure that Michigan is heard.
There's those cool kids on the internet making fun of how I talk. But let's be real, they're making fun of Michigan. Their jokes makes me fight harder. Just like I did when I was working for President Obama. Like I'm doing standing up to Trump.
Yeah, President Obama. When I was an intern, I sat next to President Obama.
To stop ICE. They might not like how I sound, but I am going to make damn sure they hear us in the halls of power.
Yeah. So, again, this is like an online phenomena, okay? I'm willing to bet not a single damn person in this room gives a shit about the way you sound or has heard, I don't know, barbarism critic getting a fucking viral tweet off on how you sound. You know what I mean? Can you imagine making that your fucking campaign? It's somehow even dumber than making your campaign around like Abdul El-Sayed hung out with Hasan Piker. He's a Twitch streamer. You guys need to know about this guy. He's real bad. What gives? Like you really got 70-year-olds in the room being like, yeah, Haley, I'm voting for you because Obama, and they're making fun of the way you sound, which sounds very normal and very real. You never see so many black people on TV until it's voting season. That's actually a very interesting point, especially nowadays when like the anti-woke corporate attitudes really settled in and people were running the fucking gamut on the anti-woke shit. Everyone in that room is on Medicare and they don't want you to have it. There's also an element of that in there too. Boomer resentment. You know how it is. Boomer cons, conservative boomers. That's how they operate. It is what it is. What are you going to do? But I'm a Michigander in Ann Arbor and you sound exactly like Haley Stevens, right? Obviously. That's what we've learned. I mean, I've been up and down this state quite a bit for Abdul in the last year and a half. I have yet to encounter one motherfucking person that sounds like Haley Stevens. People from Michigan have said she's trying to do a Yooper accent. Maybe I haven't been to the Upper Peninsula. This is how you know I'm fucking Michigan. This is how you know I'm a real one. I know this. But if you ask Haley Stevens, who has now nationalized this Senate primary, the only takeaway that she wants you to have from her disastrous dumpster fire of a campaign is that this is how everyone in Michigan speaks. That's devastating. That's devastating. That is ridiculous. I don't know, bro. She's really growing on me. Like a cancer. Yeah, she's trying to pull the John Kennedy nonsense, but as a Democrat. It's actually really interesting to see it happen as a Democrat. It's unexpected. You don't usually expect this from Democrats. Democrats go in the opposite direction where they code switch. When they go to the South, they try to ham up their black scent. That's usually how it goes. Miss Rachel endorsed most of the remaining DSA slate. Miss Rachel is our strongest warrior. Let's be real. I love her so much. Rural Michigander here who travels all over the state. I have also never heard anyone sound like her. Yeah, because she's literally exaggerating it. Bro, she went to a private school that is $60,000 a year. She's from Rochester. She literally grew up in the same fucking town that Nick Pollum grew up in. Does Nick Pollum sound like that? That's one of the other characters of this race that I just don't fucking appreciate. This like subtle but not so subtle way of saying like, I'm from Michigan. My opponent is not. Dog, Abdul was born like 10 miles away from you. What the fuck are you talking about? He's not real Michigan. I think we know what you're saying when you say the brown guy, whose name is Abdul El-Sayed of Egyptian descent, is not real Michigan like you are. Okay? That's been hella annoying too. The fuck do you mean I'm real Michigan, unlike my opponent? Unlike my opponent. He doesn't have a quirky accent. That's real Michigan. So all of this, aside from the dog whistles, all of this is signaling one thing and one thing only. For some, that like sectarian animus could work, especially for boomer cons. But like that hyper focus on the way you speak, the hyper focus on how like you're being bullied online, this kind of stuff is not in any way, shape, or form designed to be appealing and designed to draw voter turnout. Unless you're signaling to one constituency only, and that is people that live in DC, the consultant class that spend every waking moment on Twitter just like we do and are constantly getting into battles on there, and the resentment that they carry over from anonymous Twitter accounts with like, DSA roses on them, or anonymous Twitter accounts, the hammer and sickle on them, carries into like some kind of political representation in the real world, as though these factional battles between Neera Tanden and her reply guys and gals is in any way, shape, or form going to have an impact on the lives and livelihoods of Michiganders. I don't want to give advice to my opposition. But it doesn't really matter because they never listen to me. Even when I am literally yelling at them over and over again about what's going to happen next, and then it inevitably comes true, and I'm just going to give them advice one more time. Stop hyper-focusing on Twitter battles that you have. These things are not appealing to the average people. You have to run on a policy-first platform. Hopefully this message carries over to some of the centrists that won their primary races so that they don't run stupid fucking races in the general and lose to the goddamn Republicans.